Welcome to Luma Sleep, where stories slow the world down and help you find rest. I'm Luma, your guide tonight. Thanks for being here. Tonight, we won't fix anything. We won't hold our thoughts up to the light or ask our hearts to be clearer than they are. We'll just set things down the way a mirror is turned face down when the room grows too dark to see. If your eyes are still open, let them grow heavier, not shut with force, but lowered like the petals of a rose that's seen enough for one day. There is no need to keep watching, no need to keep sorting, not tonight. Let your breath move slowly now, not because it should, but because it can. Let it come in, quiet, steady, and go out just as soft. The room doesn't need you to hold it together. The stars do not require your witness. Tonight, you are allowed to unremember, to loosen, to breathe without wondering what's next. Let your body fall a little deeper now into the mattress, into the quiet, into the hush that has waited for you just past the hour when even stories begin to sleep. You are not late, you are right on time. And somewhere beyond this moment, beyond the clock's ticking and the candle's flicker, a stillness has been expecting you. Don't rush toward it. Let it come. It moves slow, like silk in water, like a curtain being drawn in a room no one has entered for years. It asks for nothing except your soft attention. And you, lying here with the day finally behind you, have nothing left to give except presence. That is enough. That has always been enough. Now that your breath is slower, your limbs quieter, let the room soften too. Not disappear, just shift. Let the walls blur at the corners. Let the ceiling grow dim and distant. Let the floor beneath your bed become something older, like stone, like snow, like memory. There is no reason to hold it all so clearly. The world has edges, yes, but not for you tonight. Tonight, even mirrors blur. Tonight, even your name feels softer at the edges. Let it be so. The air does not need you to define it. The silence in this room is not waiting to be filled. It is waiting to hold you. Can you feel it? The way the quiet gathers around your ankles, the way it breathes against your ribs, soft and invisible, the way it presses nothing, yet stays. There might be a sound far off, the hum of something forgotten, the whisper of wind touching glass, but you don't need to name it. Let it be what it is. You're not here to listen hard. You're here to listen low, to the kind of quiet that doesn't try to be silence, but arrives like a forgotten guest with no reason to knock. Let the stillness collect around you like snow falling in a forest no one walks through anymore. No prints, no urgency, just hush. Let yourself be untouched, unsearched for, undemanded. There is no mirror here yet, only your body, resting only your breath, slower now, only this moment, which asks for nothing but for you to stay a little longer, just like this. This is the moment when the story hasn't begun, but it also hasn't ended. It floats here, in the in-between, like a mirror turned to the wall, like a slipper left behind on purpose. We are not chasing plot tonight. We are not unraveling secrets. We are simply drifting. This story, like a shadow after midnight, is not here to be seen. It's here to be felt. So, let your thoughts grow quieter still. Let them fold. Let them fade. You're not meant to follow each word, just like you're not meant to follow each snowflake. You are meant to rest beneath them, to feel their weightless touch. There is a mirror in this story, but not the one you remember. Not the one that judges, not the one that glows red with power. This mirror is quieter, older, turned toward a woman who no longer wants to be fairest, only real. But don't go to her yet, not yet. For now you are still on this side of sleep, still held in breath, still safe in this soft room where nothing is required of you. Let the hush deepen. Let your body fall a little farther, as if the bed beneath you is not made of cotton or coil, but of pine needles, fresh snow, forgotten lullabies. You are being kept, held, and soon, when the last of the clocks have forgotten to tick, the mirror will turn, the story will begin. But only when you are ready, only when your breath has found the quiet it's been searching for all day. There are mirrors we look into to check our face, to adjust, to align, to ask, is this right? And then there are mirrors we turn away from, not because they lie, but because they wait too long before speaking. These are the mirrors that do not flatter, they do not answer, they observe. You know the kind, the ones in empty hallways or in the corners of dressing rooms long after the fabric has been folded. The ones that do not sparkle, do not smile, they do not reflect your best self, only your real one. The curve of your spine when no one is watching, the way your mouth falls when it forgets to pretend. These mirrors ask nothing, yet they know everything. And maybe you've avoided them, not from shame, but from the ache of honesty. Because there is a moment, one that often comes only after midnight, when you stand before glass, not to be seen, but to see back. Not to adjust, but to listen. Not to the voice in your head, but the older one, the quieter one. The one that asks nothing except, are you still there? And you are, somehow you are, even after the crown was broken, even after the apple was bitten, even after the story was over, you are still here, and the mirror sees you. Once upon a time, you were the fairest. Not in power, not in perfection, but in the clarity of your presence. You were seen, you were chosen, You were whispered about in corners, measured in spells, mirrored in jealousy. And then the story moved on, the curtain closed, the crown tarnished, the gown no longer quite fit. And the girl in the story grew quiet, not vanished, not erased, just still. And what is beauty when it is no longer watched? What is worth when no one names it out loud? There is something deeper than loveliness, something that doesn't need to be sung about by birds or dwarves or desperate suitors. It is the kind of strength that sits cross-legged on the floor of an old room and touches the edge of her own story like a wound she is not ashamed of. She no longer looks for the mirror to confirm her glow. She lets the glow be a thing the mirror notices only when the light is right, only when she's not trying. And that, somehow, is enough. Not dazzling, not royal, but true. The kind of truth that only shows up when beauty is no longer the point. Every story ends before the real story begins. The wedding, the kiss, the happily ever after. These are closings, not openings. And no one tells you about the hours after. When the halls grow cold and the crown is set on the shelf and the mirror, long ignored, starts to whisper again. What does a girl do when her tale is finished but her life is not? When she no longer needs saving but still longs to be seen? There's a space after midnight that no story reaches, a space where no magic comes and no curse lingers. Only silence, only the breath of a woman sitting before her own reflection and asking, who am I now that no one is watching? And the answer is not swift, it does not rhyme, it is not sung by a chorus of woodland creatures. It arrives slowly, like a fog lifting over a lake no one remembers the name of. And when it comes, it does not shine. It steadies, it settles, it stays. Because even after the story, after the apple, after the prince, there is still a girl who breathes, and the mirror, finally quiet, sees her, not as a tale, not as a symbol, not as a beauty, just as her. And that is where this night begins. She did not wear the crown anymore. It lay quiet in a drawer lined with velvet, beside a comb made of bone and a spool of thread she never used. Her name was once spoken like prophecy. Now it lived in silence, in letters she never signed, in stories she didn't correct. She didn't need to. There are truths that no longer ask to be believed. Tonight, like many nights, she walked to the long hallway of the east wing, barefoot. The stone floor cool under her soles, familiar. She passed portraits, not hers, others, faces turned slightly to the side, as if still unsure whether to look at her or away. She didn't stop to study them. Her path was set. At the end of the corridor, a narrow door. painted once, now faded, its handle always slightly cold, even in summer. She turned it without hesitation. The hinges did not creak. They had learned to move quietly, like everything else in this part of the castle. Inside, a small round room, lit only by a single high window, where moonlight slanted in sideways and gathered in a silver pool on the floor. And in the center, facing away from the door, the mirror. She approached it slowly, not reverently, not fearfully, just with a kind of practiced stillness, like someone meeting an old wound that no longer bleeds but still remembers. She did not rush to face it. She moved around it first, fingertips grazing its frame, which was carved with symbols no one remembered the meaning of. She had never asked. Some things are not meant to be translated, only witnessed. And now, standing before it, the glass still dark from the hour, she waited. Because this mirror did not reflect with light, it reflected with memory. At first, there was nothing, only her outline, soft at the edges, like steam over water. Then, a slow unfolding, not of her face, but of feeling, the kind of recognition that isn't visual, the kind that begins behind the ribs, where the breath hesitates. She saw not herself, but a version of herself, not younger, not older, just earlier. The girl before the apple, before the coffin of glass, before the kiss. Her hair longer, her eyes slightly wider, not from innocence, but from the absence of what came after. This girl didn't speak, didn't reach. She only stood there, waiting, and the woman, the one watching, the one breathing in the present, did not reach for her. She knew better. Mirrors do not offer reunion, only return. And return always costs something. So she stayed where she was. Let the image hover. Let it flicker. She saw the cloak she used to wear, the one with the hood. She saw the smear of ash on her cheek from the hearth she once cleaned. She saw, in the corner of the glass, a red ribbon she hadn't thought of in years, still coiled, still waiting. And when her eyes met the girl's, nothing happened. No shimmer, no spell, no truth revealed. Only the quiet fact that both still existed, and neither was trying to escape. She sat. There was a stool in the corner, low and plain, its cushion sunken with time. She didn't face the mirror now. She let it be behind her. Sometimes the truth is easier to hold when you're not staring at it. Her hands folded in her lap, not clasped, just resting. The stone walls around her held the cold, but she didn't shiver. There is a warmth that comes not from fire, but from knowing you no longer need to be seen to be real. She listened to the hush, to her breath, to the faint sound of a branch brushing the tower window in rhythm with her pulse. This was not penance, This was not longing. This was simply a ritual of presence, a woman sitting with herself without needing to explain why, without needing to ask what next. The mirror did not whisper. It had done enough. Now it only held what it had always held, her after the glass, after the story, after the world had moved on and left her not broken, not triumphant, but still here, still breathing, still willing to face the reflection, even when no one else is looking. And that, on this side of midnight, is its own kind of fairy tale. There was a drawer, not in the tower room, but in her chamber, tucked beneath the bed where the light never reached. It was not locked. It did not need to be. Inside it, wrapped in an old scarf that still held the scent of lavender and smoke, was the apple. Not whole, not rotten, just a piece. The final bite, untouched all these years. It wasn't because she feared it. She didn't keep it out of trauma. She kept it because it was part of her story, a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence no one else could quite read. Sometimes she would take it out, not often, and hold it in her palm. Not to remember the poison, but to feel how small the danger had been, how little it took to change everything. The apple did not glow, did not pulse with any cursed magic. It just existed, as a reminder that sweetness and silence have always walked close together. She never tried to throw it away, because it wasn't evil. It was just the thing that happened. And sometimes she needed to remember that even the worst moments can become quiet if given enough time. The apple no longer frightened her. It only reminded her that once she was very young and very trusting, and that even now she is still here. There was a wardrobe beside the window, its wood pale with age, hinges whisper soft from years of care. Inside hung the gowns, not the ones from the forest, those had long unraveled, but the ones from the years after, silks in colors chosen for her by people who wanted her to shine. She had worn them with grace, with posture, with the quiet effort of someone trying not to disappoint the people who rescued her. But now they stayed pressed and hung in a line she rarely touched. She did not resent them. She just no longer needed to become them. Once she had dressed to be a queen. Now she dressed to be warm. She chose linens that wrapped, wools that remembered her shape, sleeves long enough to hold her hands when her thoughts were too loud. Sometimes she ran her fingers over the embroidery on a gown no one had seen in years. It was stitched with birds. They looked like flight, but they had never moved. And she realized, for the first time, that the dress had never been hers. It had been part of the tale, but not part of her. And so she let it hang, beautiful, still, but no longer needed, because she had learned that real beauty lives in the clothes we rest in, not the ones we perform in. And tonight, her robe was soft, her feet bare, and the mirror didn't mind. There are truths she has never spoken aloud, not to courtiers, not to companions, not even to the birds who still visit her sill, though she no longer sings. She keeps them not as secrets, but as seeds, things too delicate to bloom in light, things that only unfold in the hush of the midnight room, with the mirror quiet and the wind forgetting how to move. One of them, she sometimes misses the forest, not for its danger, not for its trials, but for its silence, for the way it never asked her to be more than she was. Another, she never truly loved the prince. She was grateful, she was soft toward him, but her heart had been asleep longer than anyone realized, and some parts of her never fully woke. She wonders sometimes if that's why the story ended right after the wedding, because no one wanted to see what happens when a girl with a half-sleeping heart tries to live wide awake. She tells these things to no one except the mirror, and even then, not with words, only with the way she stands still, breathes quiet, lets the truth sit beside her like an old friend, because some truths do not need to be spoken to be known. They just need to be kept. And tonight, they are kept tenderly, unashamed, like treasures in a drawer beneath a bed no one searches anymore. Not all silence is empty. There is a kind of quiet that doesn't withdraw. It leans. It leans toward you like a listener, like a grandmother with eyes soft from knowing and hands that no longer reach to fix. This is the silence in the tower room. It gathers after midnight, settling over stone and glass like a shawl worn long enough to remember other winters. She sits in that silence with no candle lit, only the moonlight, faint, tired, enough. And in that quiet, she does not think. She does not reach for insight or clarity. She simply breathes, and something in the room, in the mirror, in the stones, in the very air, breathes with her. It does not speak, it does not reflect, it just stays. And in that staying, she feels what she could never name, that she is not being watched. She is being witnessed, and those are not the same. The mirror never showed her the future. It never granted wishes or answered questions or summoned answers. Its magic was quieter, stranger. It reflected what others refused to see and what she had long avoided. Not her face, not her beauty, but her being. And it had spoken, and it had whispered the words that named her fairest. She remembered the way that truth had felt like victory, and then like a burden. Because once you are seen that way, it becomes the only way. and everything else is measured against it. But the mirror no longer speaks. It no longer judges or warns or proclaims. It simply holds light. And sometimes, in that light, she sees a flicker of who she is now. Not the girl with lips like blood, skin like snow, hair like raven's wing, but the woman whose eyes do not seek confirmation, whose body remembers danger and shelter, whose voice no longer asks to be echoed. And the mirror, it does not applaud, it does not deny, it sees, and that is enough. That has always been its real magic. There is a quiet that settles into the bones after a life has been filled with too many moments that mattered, after decisions, after danger, after being the center of a tale that refused to end until it did. Now she seeks the kind of night where nothing happens, where no one arrives, no prophecy is fulfilled, no spell is broken, only stillness, only time. She once believed healing looked like transformation. Now she knows it often looks like rest. And tonight, in the tower room, beneath a mirror that watches without asking, she rests. Not because she is tired, not because she has earned it, but because she can. And maybe that is the rarest magic of all. To sit beside your own story after it no longer controls you and not ask for more. To breathe without direction, to exist without defense, to listen not for answers, but for the silence that tells you you do not need to become anything else. You already are. She stopped dyeing it one winter ago. There was no announcement, no moment of decision. Just one day, a single silver strand remained, and she let it. Then another, and another, not because she longed for age, not because she wanted to renounce anything, only because she had grown tired of pretending to pause time. She wore her graying hair not as rebellion, not as surrender, but as recognition of everything that had passed through her, of all she had seen, of the softness that comes when you no longer argue with the seasons. Sometimes the servants looked surprised, sometimes they looked grateful, but she didn't change it for them. She let her hair be itself because she was learning how to do the same. And in the mirror, her reflection changed, not in beauty, not in form, but in presence. There was no effort to glow, and still she glowed. In the way snow glows under moonlight, unannounced, unafraid. It sits, folded, inside a drawer beside the apple. Its paper has yellowed, its ink has faded just enough to feel whispered, not written. It begins with no name, it ends with no signature, but it's clear who it was meant for. The woman who sent the huntsman, the one with envy woven into her sleeves, the one who broke the mirror and then asked it to love her. The letter is not forgiveness, it is not fury, It is simply truth, a truth that no longer needs to be received to be real. The words inside it are simple. I see now, I see what you wanted, and I see what it cost you. She never mailed it. She never left it on a grave. She never read it aloud to the wind. She only kept it because some truths do not want to be heard. They want only to be held, and holding them is its own kind of peace. She rose slowly from the stool. Her legs no longer moved with the swiftness they once had, but they moved. That was enough. She faced the mirror one last time, not for answer, not for praise, just to look. And there, not in glass, but in the space between, she saw a woman, not a girl, not a legend, not a myth etched into gold leaf, just herself. No crown, no wound, no story written on her skin. Only presence, only breath. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The reflection remained steady and soft, even as she turned away, as if it had learned to stay with her now, not as prophecy, not as echo, but as witness. And that, quietly, finally, was the moment, not of ending, not of beginning, but of returning to herself without needing to leave again. She didn't close the mirror. There was no cloth drawn over it, no ritual to seal it shut, no final glance to catch something fading. She simply stepped away, the way one leaves a room they know they'll return to, the way one walks out of memory without forcing it closed. Her feet moved softly across the stones, not hurried, not heavy. She passed the same portraits on the walls, still turned slightly aside, still uncertain. She let them be. She did not pause to correct the past. She did not bow to what had been. Instead, she descended the stairs as though time had loosened its grip, as though the hour no longer held shape. Somewhere below, a fire had gone out. Somewhere near, a window was letting in the cold. But she felt neither chill nor need, only the soft weight of quietness pressed into her shoulders like a shawl stitched from breath. There was no crown on her head, no name in her mouth, no ending to carry, only rest, and the mirror, silent now, stayed behind her not as absence, but as echo, not calling, just remaining. Her door opened without resistance. The hinges didn't sigh, they welcomed. Inside, a bed turned down, a book untouched, a candle burned low into its final quiet. She moved through the space with the reverence of someone no longer rushing to matter. The fire in the hearth had died, but she did not relight it. She didn't need the warmth, not tonight. The room itself held her gently, as if it remembered all her versions, the girl, the queen, the silence between. She sat at the edge of the bed, one hand resting against her knee, the other near her heart, where the ribbon had once been tied. She didn't speak. Even thoughts had quieted now. There was nothing left to name, nothing left to wonder, only the softness of breath leaving slowly, only the hush that comes after truth has been accepted without needing to be understood. She lay down, not to sleep, not yet, just to be horizontal in a world that would carry on without her effort. And the bed, like the mirror, received her without question, without need. The candle gave one final flicker, a whisper of flame, wavering, then still. Its glow stretched faintly across the stone floor, reaching toward her toes, but not quite touching. She did not move. She let her eyes fall closed, not like a door being shut, but like a curtain drifting in an evening breeze. She let her body forget its edges. Let her thoughts drift like petals on water in a pond no one visits anymore. And in that drift, there was no story, no apple, no name, no reflection, only a woman resting, not because she had finished, not because she had won, but because the mirror, the night, and the room itself had all agreed. There was nothing left to prove, only this moment, only this breath, only this ending that was not an end. That night, she left the window slightly open, just enough for the cool to slip through, for the dark to settle gently on the sill. She didn't draw the curtains. She didn't need to keep anything out. Outside, the trees stood quiet. The stars, dim but sure, held their places without needing to be wished upon. She lay on her side, one arm tucked beneath her cheek, the other resting just where her breath rose and fell. No crown above her head, no tail beneath her feet. Only moonlight folded softly across the blanket, like memory returning without needing to speak. She didn't think of mirrors, not anymore. They had done their work. Now there was only this room, this night, this moment. And in the stillness, something very old and very quiet moved through her. Not as a voice, not as a dream, but as a knowing that no longer needed words. She didn't see it now, not on the wall, not in glass, but she felt it, a presence, a clarity, not of judgment, not of image, but of self. The mirror had once spoken, then watched. Now it lived inside her, not as reflection, not as reminder, but as rhythm, like breath, like stillness, like sleep. She no longer sought her own eyes. She no longer asked, "Who am I now?" She simply was, no longer the fairest, no longer the feared, just the woman who remained after all the endings, the woman who carried nothing but softness and the hush of being whole. Somewhere, far away, the tower room rests. The moon has moved on, The candle has become wick and wax. The gown in the wardrobe shifts slightly in the dark, unworn, unmissed. But she lies still, breathing like water just before it freezes, just after it's been held. And in that stillness, the mirror does not glow, it does not speak, it simply stays, not in the room, in her. It curls beside her ribs, between her lungs, just behind the final thought before sleep takes her. It says nothing. It doesn't need to, because tonight, for the first time, she does not need to be seen to feel real. And the mirror, quiet, clear, whole, stays with her, even as her breath slows, even as her thoughts fade, even as the world tilts into dreaming. The mirror stays, not to reflect her, to rest with her, and the mirror stayed with her